Any Dr. Sujin Bajaj is available now?
No, sir, his phone is not reachable. I'm just trying again and again.
When you contacted last time, what time you confirmed it?
No, he's joining. He'll join in a little thing.
Okay.
He's also working, putting together the presentation. He'll be joining soon.
Okay. Yes, sir is here, sir. So, doctor, sir. He had joined the lecture.
Okay. Yeah.
Where is he? Whether he's
I think if you're all set, all
yes.
the other delegates have all joined, then we can start because Dr. Mohammed Ashil will join a little later.
Okay. So I think, Jessica, we can start with it.
Okay.
Jessica, unmute. Jessica, you unmute first.
Hello. Good evening to everyone. I'm Jessica, and on behalf of SAT Foundation, I would like to welcome you all. I would like to welcome Dr. Vinod Chandra Menon, sir, former Chief of Emergency in UNICEF India, now Senior Professor and Head of School of Compassion, Peace and Humanitarian Action and Disaster Management at MIT World Peace University, Pune.
Not yet. I left in February. I'm not working with MIT World Peace University anymore. Okay, you can just continue. Thank you.
I would like to welcome all the esteemed executive members of DMCI. I would like to welcome Advocate Deepak Prakash, engineer of the SAT Foundation. I would like to welcome all the members on the board, the interns and the volunteer participants of the SAT Foundation and the other participants who took their time to attend this informative webinar on the plasma therapy, myth and reality. Now, I would like to ask Vinod Menon, sir, to give the opening remarks.
Thank you very much. I think it's a great pleasure for us to have this program with Dr. Sujin Bajaj joining us to deliver this session on plasma therapy, myths and reality. This, I think, is one of the most contemporary issues with the large numbers of COVID patients who are in hospitals in many states in the country, many districts, in many cities. We are really repeatedly receiving messages for and we find that there is this request coming.
I think there is some, I'm sorry for interruption, but there is some gap. I mean, there is some intrusion coming. Well, can you guys please keep yourself on mute so that others can see it? Those who are not speaking.
Everybody, and yeah, thank you. See, I think plasma therapy has also got lots of lots of requests for plasma, but at the same time there are people who are doubting the efficacy of plasma therapy, and so we have Dr. Sujin Bajaj, one of the foremost experts in dealing with this problem right from the time when the COVID crisis actually started becoming really extremely challenging. With the nature of the treatment was, the protocols were being, clinical management was being also debated. And you also know that currently there is this problem also about hydroxychloroquine, the controversy about that, the controversy about various medicines on vaccines. So we have a very competent person, Dr. Sujin Bajaj, who will be talking to us on plasma therapy based on his experiences in setting up the first plasma bank in Delhi with ILBS. And he's one of the people who has also been active in sharing his knowledge and also his experience and the experience of all the other intensivists and doctors in different parts of the country. Kerala did the first series of plasma therapy interventions with COVID patients who were actually undergoing hello. The plasma therapy first was approved as a protocol in Kerala, and then it was tried in Maharashtra, and then it was tried in various other states like Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and also in Bihar and Odisha and various other states. We are getting lots of requests for plasma. So I would like to basically welcome Dr. Sujin Bajaj with his experience both as an MD in internal medicine and also a Chevening fellow and one of the Stanford, the cohort, the Stanford Seed, and also Aspire and Seed ISG fellow. He has an academic background and a professional experience. So I'm sure that this will be an extremely valuable session in sharing his insights and his experiences. And there are many questions. In fact, many schools of thought have different approaches in looking at the way in which COVID can be handled. So I will be very brief in terms of my observations in the opening remarks. I would only welcome Dr. Sujin Bajaj and also all the others who have joined from different states and countries. And this is also going live on Facebook because there are many different cities and different rural areas. So we hope that we will also be having questions from people on Zoom and also on YouTube, which will also be compiled by our moderators and shared with Dr. Sujin. Welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. I would like Reshmi ma'am to say a few words, please. She is the executive member of DMCI. Reshmi ma'am, please.
She's not joined, I think.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. It's actually going, I mean, I know everyone is waiting to hear an interesting and session. And this session is going to be very interesting and it's very informative, and it needs to create awareness about what is a plasma therapy first place. And we are in a big fight to fight it out, COVID, and in the COVID treatment and plan. Plasma therapy has a major role to play, and like even many people I know are very scared to give blood. So then giving and offering, donating plasma is something a different thing. So hope that such fear and maybe worries, concerns of us and people around us, we could able to clear from this talk. I mean, like you people, I am also looking forward to listen this talk, and also we will be able to share it to other people. So like it will reach the maximum. And all the best to the speakers, and all the best to the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like Deepak sir to give a brief introduction of SATH.
Good evening to everybody. I'm not taking much time because of we are all waiting for doctor's class right now. And that is that we are just organized a few weeks before. We are basically working with Distress Management Collective of India to support the activities and to bring the youth together, and especially to reach the justice to the doorsteps of the people as per the inspiration of and the great thought process of legal service authority all over India, national legal service authority and state and district and taluk level. So it's a matter of reaching justice to the people. We are just propagating that idea, and whenever there is a problem, to reach the people, that issue through different committees we are forming. And the government is already announced a huge package for different segments. We are trying to reach these packages to the people properly. I'm not continuing with my speech right now. We have Dr. Mohammed Ashil is there, and a lot of people are here with us for this function. So I'm just thanks for everybody for joining, and I'm just concluding my this thing. Whenever we are getting time, we'll explain further. I think we can go with the function, and we can request Dr. Bajaj to continue the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to welcome Dr. Sachin Bajaj, MBBS, MD of Internal Medicine. Dr. Sachin Bajaj is the founder director of Ujala Kindness Hospitals, with the vision to provide super speciality healthcare to the district towns of the states of India where no facility exists. After completing his MBBS from PGIMS, Dr. Sachin did his doctorate in internal management in 2004. He did an advanced program in strategic management from IIM Calcutta in 2013, and in the year 2014, he did his advanced program in cardiac emergency. In addition to the other numerous awards, in the name of Dr. Sachin, he received the Worldwide Achievers Healthcare Excellence Award in 2014 for his excellence in internal medicine in Delhi. The national also received National Award for Excellence in Healthcare in year 2015. Without any further ado, I would like to hand over the platform to Dr. Sachin Bajaj.
Kanika, mute everybody except speaker. Kanika, please mute everybody, please. Doctor, please.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. It's such a distinguished audience. Special thanks to Kanika ji and Professor Menon for having me here. I will speak to you a little about our journey on how the plasma bank was set up and what we are doing with our project Step 1 in 13 states of India right now. And I will also try and dispel some issues around plasma, why it is important, when it should be given, when it not, who can give it, who cannot, is the questions around us. I would encourage anyone to ask any question at any time. Very happy to answer any questions. So try to keep it as interactive as possible. So I will try and if the host can allow me to share my screen, it will be easier to show my slides. So Kanika, are you the host?
Yes, sir. I have shared, sir. You can share your screen now. Okay. Thank you.
So I hope you can see my screen, all of you. So as I said, we will go through a bit of the history on what we are doing and what were the problems that we were looking to solve. What is the plasma donation process exactly? Who can give it? Who cannot give it? Who can take it? What time you should give it? And what are the results that we have been able to achieve with this initiative in Delhi? So plasma is not a new thing. We may be thinking that plasma is a new-fangled kind of therapy. It has suddenly come in. You know, we've been hearing it about it for the first time, but it is not. It has been extensively and historically used for a long time, starting from the Spanish flu in 1918, which was the last big pandemic that we saw on this scale that went throughout the world and killed crores of people, really. But it has also recently been used in SARS, MERS, even in Ebola infections. Basically, any infection in which you don't have any proven treatment, you do try and give out various therapies that are on trials, and plasma is one such trial. It was started in Delhi, approved by ICMR and Drug Control General of India, allowed first in 3 hospitals. The initial trials were very encouraging, and the ICMR then allowed off-label use of this therapy for most of the hospitals. That is when the real scramble in Delhi started. It is also now in many other states, but in Delhi, if you remember, in mid-June or somewhere around 20th of June, there was a mad scramble for plasma. Everybody was putting it on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, that, you know, my family member needs plasma. It is very urgent. Please help us. There was a big scramble, and we had been handling the helplines of COVID in Delhi since 1st of June. We were as an organization, we had taken over the entire Delhi government helplines since 1st of June, because helplines were also a problem and a mad scramble for beds. And advice had been there in end of May and beginning of June as well. So we had been able to solve that. So the government had a bit of confidence in us. So we started talking to the government, saying now this problem of plasma is coming up in a big way. And since we are already handling the helplines, we are getting a lot of calls for plasma. We also have a lot of recovered patients on our database, because we are handling all the processes of the helplines, home isolation, home quarantine. So we can easily arrange for these recovered patients who we have in our data bank to be motivated as donors and to help these people who are now in trouble. So the initial discussions of this started on 26 June around. I remember Atishi, who's an MLA in the Delhi government and played an active part in the helpline process, and I had a long talk about this. Our initial thought was that we'll also do a donor recipient matching kind of a registry, where any recipient who needed plasma would be matched to a donor, and the donor then could donate plasma for that patient. To the credit of the Delhi government and to the credit of the CM and Atishi as well, they realized that there would be problems in this, and they thought out a new kind of a solution called a plasma bank. And they started discussing that with us and the pros and cons, and we started to streamline the process. On 30th June, we had agreed to the fact that the plasma bank would be set up, and this would be the whole process and how we would go about it. And the CM launched it on 2nd of July on Doctor's Day. So you can imagine how fast the entire process was to set up this whole new thing, the technology involved behind it, the product that we had to create on our software that we used, and that we had used earlier only for helpline purposes, and now we had to use for the plasma bank. Also, the fact that Delhi government had to set up the whole machinery, the beds, the place in ILBS, so everything they also had done at a war footing. So Dr. Meenu Bajpai, who's the head of plasma bank at ILBS, I think worked day and night with us. So 24 hours, our entire team worked together to set it up. And on 2nd July, we started calling recovered donors on 1st of July, so that we could start them donating on 2nd of July. So this is how the whole process was set up. So before this process had been set up, as I said, there was a mad scramble and there were many problems being faced by the recipients. So what were the problems that we had to solve? So before the plasma bank was set up, if you were unlucky to be a COVID patient and you were admitted into a hospital and somebody asked you to, the doctor asked you that, okay, now you have to arrange plasma because plasma therapy is needed, your patient is not improving. So then you had to look for a donor first because there was nobody there. So you had to post on social media or call your friends or your family, and you had to arrange the donor of the same blood group, because blood and plasma donation and transfusions have to be obviously of the same blood group. You cannot transfuse the plasma of a B group patient into a A blood group patient, because that will cause a big massive transfusion reaction and the patient may even die. So first you had to have the donor of the same blood group. Second, the recipient family then had to approach the donor. Once the donor was identified, the recipient family had to call him saying, can you please come and donate? And this opened up the door for the donor or some unethical people around him to exploit this advantage that they had for economic purposes. So an entire black market opened up in Delhi, and we heard horror stories of people demanding lakhs of rupees for donating plasma to a recipient. So there was this huge black market going on in Delhi at that time. Even now, right now, we hear that it is going on in various cities where for plasma people are demanding lakhs of rupees. Even if they did not have to go through this and the donor agreed that okay, no problem, I will donate for good faith and as a good person, there was a problem then that the donor had to come to the same hospital where the patient was admitted and donate his plasma there. So some donors were hesitant to come to a COVID hospital because COVID patients were admitted there and they were slightly afraid that we've just recovered and we don't want to go back to a place where COVID patients are admitted. Even if that was solved, then the pickup and the drop had to be arranged by the recipient's family, that they had to send a car to pick that person up and bring him and then drop him back to his house. And when the donor reached there, the private hospitals where the patient was admitted charged anywhere from 15 to 25,000 rupees just for taking and processing that plasma. So it was an expensive affair. It was not very cheap to arrange plasma. So this, as I said, created a big social media scramble. There were these huge black marketing opportunities, and many unethical organizations jumped into the fray saying that, okay, we'll arrange a plasma for you, but at the end moment, they would start demanding money or some other favors from the recipient's family. So the plasma bank tried and started solving one problem at a time. We managed to solve most of the problems in the initial phases, and now we have managed to solve all of the problems. So in the initial stage, as soon as the plasma bank was set up, so you can understand that bank means that you just go and deposit a plasma, right? So any denomination rupee note you deposit in a bank doesn't really matter, right? You deposited 4 notes of 500, but now you need 200 rupees, you can easily get 100 rupee notes also. So blood group went out of the picture completely. So even if you could arrange any donor of any group, the bank would replace that blood group with the plasma blood group that it already had in its bank. So like if you arranged a donor of B positive and your patient's requirement was O positive, the donor could go and deposit B positive in the bank and get O positive in exchange for it, which some other donor had already deposited. So that solved the problem. Second, the donor was not required to go to a COVID hospital. The bank was set up in ILBS, which was a non-COVID hospital, and so there were no COVID patients being treated there. So it was easy to go and donate the plasma there. Pickup and drop were not necessary because the transport was arranged free, courtesy of Uber. We had a tie-up with Uber, and transport was arranged free. Uber gave us credits of around 5 lakh rupees for their cabs, which we used to pick up and drop the donors. And private hospitals charge 15 to 25,000 rupees, whereas at ILBS this process was completely free. There was no charge for processing the plasma, so you could just pick up the plasma absolutely for free. So this solved the black market situation, because now everybody understood that the plasma will be arranged for free. There is no charge to it. So what exactly is the plasma donation process? If you are a plasma donor, what process will you undergo? So first of all, let me reassure you that the entire process is completely painless. There is no pain involved at all. You will not feel anything at all. People, our donors that we see there, have been singing through the whole process, telling jokes, conversing with us, talking to us, laughing. So the process is completely painless. You don't feel anything. And the plasma is taken out in less than half an hour usually. Once the needle is in, it does not take more than 30 minutes. But the whole process, of course, does take 2 to 3 hours, because you reach the bank, you have to fill in some couple of forms, so that takes around 5 to 10 minutes. Then we test you for many other diseases, so that, you know, if we take your plasma and give it to somebody, that person should not contract any infective disease. So all that infectious diseases like HIV, hepatitis B, syphilis, tuberculosis, malaria, all these kinds of diseases are tested for in your blood. That takes about an hour for the test to come back. Your hemoglobin is also tested, so that your hemoglobin is sufficient for you to donate plasma. We don't want you to take help from us, we want you to help people. So the whole process from door to door does take 2 to 3 hours. So you have to spend about half a day in that entire process, from your house back to your house. So once you express your willingness to donate plasma, you can express it anyways. We send a text message to all recovered patients in Delhi NCR, and you can click on a link on that text message to show your willingness to donate, or you can dial our helpline number 1031, and there is, the first option is, do you want to donate plasma? So if you press 0, your name will be registered and we'll call you back again. Or you can log on to the website delhifightscorona.in and register your willingness to donate there as well. It is the same process for recipients. You can call our helpline, or you can log on to the website to express your need for plasma. There is also a Google form that is in wide circulation. You can just fill up that form, and we will get to know that you require plasma, and we'll contact you immediately. So once you've expressed your willingness, our team will call you and arrange for a comfortable day and time for you to donate. So the plasma bank is open all 7 days, all 365 days, on 15th August, on Janmashtami, whatever festival you can think of. It is always open. So you can schedule your donation accordingly. Whenever you schedule, we will mark that schedule in our software. And on the day of your donation, Uber cab will come and pick you up about an hour before your donation time. The donation is done in a COVID negative hospital. As I said, ILBS has no COVID patients. There are none being treated there, so you don't need to worry about that. Your relatives and friends can also accompany you if they wish. You need to carry your positive report. It need not be in a physical format. It can be in your phone or on the website or wherever, because that COVID positive report is essential to prove that you've been a COVID patient, and a proof of identity along with that, which has the same name as the report. And then, of course, we'll screen you for all the diseases. If you have a negative, that you have tested COVID negative already, that is very good. That saves around 10 minutes. But even if you don't have a negative report, it doesn't really matter. We will test you on the spot there. It takes only about 10 minutes for the report to come out. So negative report is not really essential. We can test you there. Once you have donated, you will get a Gaurav Patra signed by the Chief Minister himself, which you can frame and put on your wall. And you will also get a donation card. So this donation card entitles you to get plasma whenever you require. So if any of your friends or family or anybody, God forbid, falls sick, you can actually get this plasma without any donor or anything. Just you can send this donor card, and the plasma bank will issue a unit of plasma against that. Who cannot donate plasma is a very important thing. So you must remember that to donate plasma, you must be more than 50 kilos of weight. If you are a female, you must never have become pregnant. So this is a very controversial eligibility criteria. There has been a lot of pushback against it, that why is this so? So let me explain it to you in slight detail. When you become pregnant, the baby inside is a foreign object, right? So any foreign object inside you generates some antibodies. So like, for example, if you have a small piece of wood or iron in your finger, you will develop some sort of reaction against it, right? So anything that goes into your body from outside, whether it be a bacteria, whether it be a virus, whether it be a implant, whether it be a baby, it generates some sort of reaction against it. So antibodies are produced against that foreign object. So when you become pregnant, you develop a special form of antibodies called HLA antibodies, human leukocyte agents. So human leukocyte antigen antibodies are antibodies which are in particular harmful for the lungs if they react. So any lady who's ever become pregnant has a chance that she may have HLA antibodies in her plasma, and that may create some sort of lung injury to a person who we transfuse that plasma to. And since this plasma is meant primarily for corona patients whose lungs are already in deep trouble and they are needing a lot of oxygen, and that is the reason why we are giving them plasma, we do not want them to suffer another episode of TRALI, as we call it, which is called transfusion related acute lung injury. So that is the only reason why we do not allow ladies who are pregnant to donate plasma in this case. You may ask that, what is the problem? Like you test for everything else, you can also test for HLA antibodies. And if the HLA antibodies are there, then you do not transfuse the plasma. I totally agree with you on that. The US has already started this protocol. It is slightly difficult in India right now because it takes around 3 days to test for HLA. And it is also a very expensive test. So right now we are already subsidizing around 12,000 rupees worth of testing consumables and expenses which it takes to process a unit of plasma. As I told you, private hospital charges around 15 to 25 because their cost is around 12,000. So we calculated the cost at ILBS, it is around 11,800 rupees to process 1 unit of plasma. And this is just the cost of consumables, reagents, and testing. It does not include the cost of the machine or the cost of the place or the air conditioning or the human resource cost like salaries of doctors, staff, etc. It is not included in that. It is just the consumables and reagents cost. So if we add one more test to it, which is a very specific test for HLA, that will add around 5,000-6,000 rupees to the cost. So right now the ICMR has not allowed women who've ever been pregnant to donate. But yes, if the need really begins to loom large and there is a lot of requirement for plasma, we may start that protocol where we do HLA testing and then take the ladies' plasma. Other eligibility criteria are very simple. So if you're a diabetic you cannot donate. If you are a blood pressure patient and your blood pressure is more than 140 on the upper reading and more than 90 on the lower reading, you cannot donate. If your lower reading is less than 60 also, then you cannot donate. Your diabetes is uncontrolled or your blood pressure, as I said, is uncontrolled and you change your medicine in the last 28 days, then also you cannot donate. If you are a cancer survivor, you cannot donate. If you have any chronic disease like kidney, heart, lung, liver, or any other disease for which you are taking medicines for a long time, then also you cannot donate. Your hemoglobin should be at least 12.5. You should not have any infection. All these things are very simple things. But sometimes there is an issue that the donor comes in and we cannot take the plasma, and it is very disappointing for everybody, because the donor has also spent so much time coming in, traveling, and expressed the willingness to donate, but then unfortunately we cannot. Your age should be between 18 to 60. So we've had many very enthusiastic donors, less than 18 and more than 60, also coming up and fighting with us that why cannot we donate? We are absolutely healthy. A young man of 13 years old. So his father was coming to donate, and this 13-year-old young gentleman made a complete video complaining about how he had been disallowed by us and how he could not donate, and he tagged the video to the CM and everybody, complaining that what was the reason that he was not allowed to come and donate and save a life, save two lives in fact, because one donor gives 2 units, so we can save 2 lives with that plasma. So but these are the criteria that we cannot, they're very stringent criteria, and we cannot do anything about it. They are set by the ICMR and the DCGI, and everybody has to follow them. So if you need plasma, then what is the process? We found that there was no dignity in the process earlier, and that is what we set out to solve. So earlier people were scrambling around, as I said, pleading with people on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Twitter, please arrange plasma for my father, for my mother. There's that they were queuing up outside the plasma bank for hours together. Some people for days together, 2-3 days, they would camp out that, we need plasma. So we focused on giving back the dignity to the whole process, that we understood that the patients were already suffering enough during this whole disease, and they should not be made to suffer more just because they wanted plasma, which is actually healthcare provision should be a right of every person, not to be given as charity. We strongly feel that a person should have the right to get the best quality healthcare, the best quality medicines, the best quality therapies, whether they're experimental or not, regardless of their financial or social status, and they should get it with full dignity. So that is what we set out to solve. So now I think the process is very smooth. I hope none of you has to ever try it, but if you do try it, do give us a feedback on that. So right now the process is very easy. As I said, you either dial 1031 or go to the website delhifightscorona.in, or just fill out a Google form which is available widely on WhatsApp. I can share that with you whenever you wish. So just fill that Google form, and as soon as you fill it, somebody from our team will call you on the number that you give on the Google form, and he or she, our team member, will explain you the entire process on what you need to do. There are many forms that you need to get filled by your hospital doctors and your nodal officers where you are admitted, so that is slightly confusing process. So our team will call you and explain to you the entire process on what forms need to be filled, how to be filled, where to get the stamp, and everything will be done, and we'll handhold you through the entire process. At the same time, in parallel, we'll align a donor with you. So as I said, we have a large data bank of recovered patients. So we will align a donor with you. Say your name is Amit and you need plasma. So we'll align a person named Sumit who has recovered, who's a donor, who's ready to donate. And we'll tell Sumit that, okay, tomorrow morning you need to go and donate for Amit, or today afternoon, whatever the time is. And we will also align about 50% as backup donors, because we do see that many donors go and get deferred by the plasma bank. They are declared unfit to donate for many reasons. For example, like you've consumed alcohol the previous day, or your hemoglobin doesn't come out right. They test you, and some infective process comes in, like somebody tests positive for typhoid or hepatitis or whatever. So many donors get deferred. Somebody's had a tattoo recently, so you cannot donate if you've had a tattoo made it for 1 full year. So we align about 50% backup donors. So once you get your forms filled, signed and stamped, you send them to our team member on WhatsApp or as a picture. We see that your forms are right. We will immediately start the donor process and the donor will go and donate for you. Once the donor has donated, your plasma is ready for process. We will call you. You just need to come with the forms and a sample of the blood of the patient, because the sample needs to be cross-matched with the plasma that is being issued so that there is no reaction that we see. And once you bring in the forms and the blood sample, the forms will be processed, the plasma will be tested and cross-matched and released to you within an hour. So it's a very simple process now. We've taken out the entire financial angle out of it, entire emotional angle out of it. You don't need to go to anybody. You don't need to ask anybody. You don't need to plead with anybody. There is just need to fill one form and wait within hour or 2 hours in working time, like from around 8 a.m. to 9-10 p.m. If you filled it 9 p.m., you will get a call back within half an hour. If you filled it later than that, then the call back will come next morning. And for sure, your plasma will be arranged within the same day if you filled it in the morning, or the next day if you filled it in the afternoon or late evening. So we have managed to get across plasma to around more than 800 people in Delhi right now. And this number is around, like, every day we do about 40-50 every day now. Earlier it was less. So it's a very satisfying process. When should you give plasma? Although I understand that this may not be the right audience for it, but just saying it here for the benefit of any doctors who also may be listening in, because we see plasma being promoted as a magic bullet therapy, and patients getting very apprehensive, very emotional, just because their doctor has told them that, your father is on the ventilator, we've tried everything else, and he's going to die in the next 3 hours if you don't get plasma. So please do not do that. Please do not believe that as well. Plasma is not a magic cure, for sure. It is effective only when given well in time. So it should be given to only moderately sick patients who are not on ventilator yet. So if you are admitted to the hospital, your oxygen requirement is increasing continuously. You are not being able, the doctors are not able to decrease your oxygen requirement or take you off oxygen, and your CT scan is showing pneumonia in both lungs. That is the time when plasma is most effective. Once you have really deteriorated and have gone on to ventilator, plasma will not be very effective, for sure. We have seen that in the best of centers, in the best of treatment protocols, once the patient has gone on ventilator, the mortality rate is as high as around 85%. So it's very difficult to bring back a COVID patient once they go on a ventilator. So initiation of any therapy, not just plasma, well in time is the only sure shot treatment for COVID. So whenever, if any of your relatives or friends, or God forbid, any known people are suffering from COVID, tell them to very, very closely monitor their oxygen saturation all the time. They should immediately go to hospital if their oxygen falls below 90 or they are very breathless. So please do not wait. Early initiation of oxygen therapy is very important to save you. Once you're in hospital, we will definitely test you for various things like serum ferritin levels, D-dimer levels, IL-6 levels, to see whether a cytokine storm is coming up or not. Because these levels, these chemicals are very early indicators for a cytokine storm that comes and really overwhelms you and then gets you on the ventilator after that. So testing all these levels in time, starting therapies like remdesivir or tocilizumab on time, and plasma therapy on time is the only short way. Do not try and just transfuse plasma randomly, that okay, we can just transfuse one person's plasma into another. That's not done. It has to be cross matched at all times. And again, requesting you, please do not see this as a magic cure. Do not promote it as a magic cure. It's not like if we don't get plasma to a patient at 3 o'clock in the morning, they will die at 3:30. It's not, it does not work that way. Plasma takes time to take action. It needs at least 24 to 48 hours to show best results. So if a patient is being projected as this patient will die in the next 3-4 hours if they don't receive plasma, that is total mumbo jumbo. Please do not believe it, because that patient is unlikely to be helped by any therapy at that time, let alone an experimental therapy like plasma. So I will show you some photographs on how this really helps. So these are photographs of the pin board at ILBS, where the donors come and donate. So on the right, you see Bakar Riaz's write-up. So Bakar is a medical student, in fact, second year MBBS student, and he works with us at Project Step One as a volunteer as well. And his father could not be saved earlier due to COVID. His father was a school teacher, very passionate person. But at that time, he passed away in early June when we did not have the plasma bank. We did not have the plasma donation capabilities. So he came and donated, and he was very proud of it that he could save somebody's life. So, and Malika is a big designer and a fashionista. I'm sure many of you would recognize her. So she also came and donated, and she wrote that you don't save one life, you save someone's child, mother, father, sibling, grandparent. So you save an entire family. So we've had many celebrity donors, from Atishi to Anshu Gupta, the founder of Goonj, to Carl Rice, whose video I think everybody saw on YouTube. Is a big YouTuber from New Zealand who came to donate. From the DCP of Delhi, New Delhi, to the Director General of Police of Tripura. So many of them have come and donated and participated in the effort. And there have been a lot of smiles all around. So we've been smiling all through the process. These photos are from the start of the blood bank when the date was inaugurated to today. There have been many happy processes around, many happy donors, many happy recipients, and many lives saved. So thank you very much for listening through this detailed talk. I would be happy to answer any questions. You can always reach out to us at any time. Our national helpline number is very easy to remember, 97456 97456, or just tweet and tag at any point of time to Project Step One or to me personally. My name is Shuchin Bajaj. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, sir. This is Arshpreet from Team Saath. We are glad, we are honored to have you here. The way you broke down the entire process in such a simple form, it was really enriching and enlightening for all of us. And sir, as you can see in the chat section, there are a lot of questions. People are quite enthusiastic because now that they understand the process, now they have questions which they want to ask because it has never been so clear to them. So a few questions, as you can see, are here by, maybe I can read it out to you.
Ashmit,
Yeah, sure.
we have that screen, screen sharing option closed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, please carry on.
Yes, sir. So, Sachin sir, I think Vinod sir had a question that does Step One have a nationwide network for plasma therapy apart from the 13 states that Step One has presence in?
So we need to understand that plasma therapy is something that we as step one cannot run on our own. So at step one, our entire process is online. It is work from home kind of a process. I will give you a little more detail about it. So this is completely voluntary effort. So I am also working as a volunteer at Step One. My main day job is running a group of hospitals in small towns called Ujala Sickness Hospitals. But we came together at Step One in early March when COVID was starting to hit the country, and we realized that there would be something needed very, very quickly and very efficiently to fight this pandemic. So this effort started as a small WhatsApp group called Founders versus COVID. It was mostly techie founders. I was the only doctor there because I had been investing in many of their companies. So Raghavendra Prasad was the main person who led this effort. I have been friends with Raghavendra Prasad since very early on school days, and I was the first investor into his company. So we started thinking together on how we could help this, and this WhatsApp group then started to grow very rapidly. The name changed to Startups versus COVID because many non-founders joined, and then many other people joined, and mostly doctors. So the name finally became Project Step One. So now we have 7,000 doctors on the platform, more than 2,000 medical students, more than 500 nurses, and more than 500 tech volunteers. It is entirely online. Most of us have never met each other. Nobody takes any salary in this. Nobody charges any money in this. We don't raise an invoice to any government or any patient or anything. Everything is completely voluntary. And we all work out of our homes on our cell phones. So you can easily call any patient from your cell phone. The software is very simple. The number does not get exposed either ways. So you just click on the software, say click to call a patient, and then you get an incoming call from our helpline number, and the same helpline number gives a call to the patient, and it patches both of you in real time so you can talk to the patient. The patient feels that the call is coming from your helpline. So all this is on the cloud in their houses. So we don't actually operate a plasma bank, right? The plasma bank has to be run by the government. So Delhi government set up the plasma bank. We just organize the donor recipient processes. Right now we've started the same thing in Bangalore. We are starting in Patna next week. But we have to remember that the main crux has to be done by the government. We can motivate the government, we can talk to them, we can tell them to do it, but then the decision has to be theirs. Like Maharashtra government, we've been talking to for a very long time. We run their helplines in Pune and Latur, but still it has not started. So we don't have the plasma network. We run the donor and recipient process, but we can definitely help you. If you need plasma, just you can call the national helpline number. We'll try and arrange plasma for you from anywhere in the country, because the blood bank officers, like I told you the name, Dr. Meenu Bajpai, who's the head at ILBS, she is a professor there. She's one of the senior most persons in the blood bank in ecosystem of the country. So she knows most of the blood bank officers around India. Most of them are her juniors. So if she gives a call to them, they will definitely listen to her. The head at AIMS Patna, she's also a very good friend of ours. So anybody who needs plasma anywhere in the country can reach out to us. We'll try and help them for sure. In Delhi, we have a guarantee that we'll give the plasma to you within 24 hours. That is something that we are fully committed to. In the rest of the cities, we can help you for sure, but we don't run the process there.
All right, sir. All right.
Can we also ask one more question, please?
Yes, sir, of course.
You mentioned 800 patients have recovered with the plasma therapy in Delhi alone.
Yes.
So what would be the national number, all over the country, because it is happening in many states now?
Yeah, so there is only an estimated number. They still haven't collated all the data yet. I was speaking to Dr. Meenu today morning only, just to as a prelude to this presentation, asking her for the latest data. So they are estimating around 4,600 patients across the country, but they still do not have enough data to report it. But they are trying to collate the data, because health is a state subject, so everything is scattered around. They don't have a central repository, they don't have a central database. in fact, they don't even have central policies, right? So some people, in some states, it is like you have to go to a COVID care center immediately as soon as you detect positive. You cannot stay at home. In some states like Delhi, it is like you have to stay at home unless and until you become very sick, and then we'll take you to hospital. So it's very complicated right now. Every state has their own policies, own numbers. Yeah.
Right. Back to you, Arshprit.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you so much, sir. And sir, I found that many people have this these common questions which revolve around that how much plasma is collected from each.
Please, 1 second. Dr. Mohammed Ashil, the director of the Social Mission of Kerala, is here. We can just have call him and we can continue. He's waiting. Sometime he's our chief guest today. Please call him.
Sure, sir, sure.
I would like to welcome our special guest, Dr. Mohammed Ashil. He's the Executive Director of Kerala Social Security Mission, organized under the Social Justice Department. Dr. Ashil is also the Director of National Institute of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, NIPMR. I would like to ask Dr. Ashil to say some words.
Thank you. Dr. Ashil is an international name. He was worked with me for the endosulfan case and all. And really, he's the leader of corona treatment in Kerala. He's actually leading there. So his effort every day is in Facebook Live. Kerala is coming to a big reach only because of his effort. He's the leader of that. Hearty welcome for Ashil, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. That was a great introduction, but I really don't think I deserve so much of that. So, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So, to your surprise, I must say one thing is that the presentation by Shujin Bajaj sir was actually being heard by the Honorable Minister of the State also. Shailaja teacher was with me now. So, she actually expressed her, and till now she was here actually she's in the next room. So then she was also very much impressed, and because she is very much interested in this convalescent plasma therapy to the extent that we actually follow up the serious cases. When the cases get to ICU, the Honorable Minister follows up the case one by one. So when something goes through to the last stage, then the minister would advise actually maybe something surprising for others, that teacher would ask that teacher is the minister here. So she asked that whether you have given plasma therapy. So that's a question which actually comes in the last for every cases. So in some cases, it's actually been very, very beneficial for us, and few cases we have failed also. So if you ask, the state is very much impressed by the idea of convalescent plasma therapy, and we have, as you know, in Kerala, the entire treatment of COVID-19 is totally free of cost. So starting from the testing to the treatment, whatever it comes, ICU admission, everything is free of cost. So here the plasma therapy also, that it is voluntary donation. So many people came forward for donating their plasma, and that's a kind of a movement kind of thing. So we have two plasma therapies, plasma bank we already have, and another five medical college we are starting that. So that is something we are really interested in, and Shujin sir's presentation was really helpful, and we were very much. It is great to know that 800 patients have been benefited in Delhi itself. Just to ask something, sir, that 800 cases, or how much of them were successful? Like what is success rate in that in terms of survival? So that is something that during the presentation, the one thing the Honorable Minister asked to confirm with you is that what's the percentage of success in the entire cases? Whether we have missed that part of not, I'm not sure. So what would be the percentage, and that if globally, what is the percentage across the world in terms of plasma therapy, convalescent plasma therapy? And one more thing, sir, you said that it has started from the Spanish flu itself, but like that was very surprising for me, because Spanish flu at that time, yeah, maybe that sounds very this realistic also, but over the years, nothing has like that was 100 years back. So what change have happened after that? Because we must have gone and kind of have been able to do something more in that, so that we can actually, we were thinking of the plasma extraction in that format. At that time, the component separation was would have been a really challenging thing at that time. So just a clarification on that. Just please enlighten us on that. And the Honorable Minister has expressed, asked me to express her gratitude on that, on this wonderful presentation. And thank you very much. And Deepak sir, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. That I just have a meeting there, but still I would like to hear that clarification from sir, that what's the success rate of these things. Thank you.
Doctor, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your kind words, sir. And hats off to you in Kerala for being I think you have been par excellence right from the time of Nipah, now even to COVID. You were the first state to be affected, and the way you've responded and come out of it, and the way the things have been taken care of is, I think, a lesson to be learned for everybody in the world, not just in India. You are the pioneers of this, and really, really very impressed by the work that you do. I would love to connect with you offline as well and learn from you what exactly that you have employed. Two clarifications I think you asked for. One is the success rate. So in the trial, the success rate was not very high. It was around 54%. So that was, I think, due to the fact that in the trial, the plasma was early on employed only for very sick patients. So patients who had already gone on to ventilators or anything, now that we have learned that it is to be used mostly in moderate patients only, not in the very sick patients, does not make a difference. So right now, out of the 1,200 something units that have been disbursed, 800 is the recovery rate. So I think it's gone more than 66% now. So I can get you more data from right from ILBS. I will email it to you, the exact data that they have, but these are the top of the line numbers that I have in my mind. Second, when you talk about the Spanish flu, there was no component separation at that time. You transfuse blood from one patient to the another, and that has been going on for a very long time. So if you've heard the history, the story of Robin Hood, so he was also killed in the same way, that they wanted to bloodlet him, and the person who let out the blood let out more than what was actually done every time, because they used to consider this as a therapy, that the virus and etc. would be let out from you. And in Spanish flu, they bloodlet the infected peoples and then transfuse the blood into the persons who were suffering from it. So that was the whole blood transfusion, but obviously it was the plasma and the antibodies that was working, and it has been tried ever since. In Ebola, it was tried a lot during the West African Ebola virus infection. Although in that trial also, it did not come out as anything positive. The trial was inconclusive. But in the SARS and MERS cases, the plasma therapy that was tried out had statistically significant better outcomes. So I can send you those data outcomes as well. I have them in detail. I thought the audience was not the audience to bore with scientific numbers and p-values, but I can send them across to you directly whenever you want.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. If anybody else wants to ask some question, platform still open for the questions.
If you want to answer the chat questions, I think we can.
Okay. So one question a person have that how many times can a COVID recovered patient can donate plasma? Is it a single time or he can donate multiple times?
Yeah, that's a very important and very good question. I'm sorry I missed that out earlier on. So you can donate plasma every 14 days. So we take out blood from you. So once you've donated plasma, the plasma recovers in the body very quickly within a matter of hours, not days. So you can come and donate every 14 days. The only problem now is that your antibody levels start falling after a few days, right? the antibodies to COVID that you develop in the body do not stay at a very high level for a very long time. They start falling down after some time, and although they are enough to help you stay protected from COVID, hopefully for a long time, but they are not enough to help another patient. So we have seen that the maximum that we've been able to get from a patient donor till now is 4 times. After the 4th time, his donor antibody level dropped. Most of the donors do not have good enough antibody levels after the 3rd time. So safely you can say you can donate at least 2 times. If you are lucky, 3 times. And if you are really a superman or a supergirl, then more than 4 times. But we haven't been able to find anybody more than 4 times till today. But there is no problem for you to donate plasma every 14 days. You can do it easily. The problem is only for the recipient. He may not benefit from your plasma after 4 times.
Okay. So one more question was there, like somebody asked that for this plasma therapy, is it the person who have little bit symptoms also, can he also undergo this plasma therapy, or he just has to be there a specific time period or something?
So little bit symptoms usually is not an indication for plasma therapy. Little symptoms are easily treated at home without even seeing a doctor, without taking any medicines. You can home isolate and be okay like any other routine viral infection. Plasma therapy is indicated for moderately sick patients who are dependent on oxygen, whose oxygen dependency is rising day by day, and who have bilateral pneumonia on their lungs if a CT has been done and we see that. So these are the patients who are clearly indicated that they can go for plasma therapy. Very mild symptoms, usually we should not prescribe plasma therapy at all.
I think these were the questions on chat box. If somebody else wants to ask in this, they can unmute yourselves and ask. I think so these were the questions.
You can call by one by one. Just call by one, which are the important.
I think there is a question on chat which says tattoos. What is the people with tattoos are not allowed. So if you've had a tattoo, we cannot take any sort of blood or plasma donation from you for 1 year after the tattoo is done. So if you've had a tattoo more than 1 year ago, then of course you can easily donate.
Thank you, sir. That was my question, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So, there are many I see on the chat. If you
They were some of the many repeated questions were there. So we had some of the questions out of them so that we can just ask.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Questions, you can actually open for questions. In case anybody has questions, then they can ask.
Doctor, requested you 5 minutes more, doctor. Somebody, if have questions, we can just finish and go, please.
Yes, sir. Of course.
It's my pleasure that there was a guest of the Kerala Health Minister was our guest, and she was watching this. I'm very thankful to her. She was also. Yeah, 1 second.
Can I take up this question from Larissa Kman, who asked about the tattoos?
Yes, sir. That was my question, sir.
Yeah, please, can you please repeat the question?
Yes, sir. So people who have had tattoos for more than a year. So you basically answered my question. I just wanted to know whether people who.
1 second. Kerala Health Minister is joining with us. As a surprise, Kerala Health Minister may be joining with us for a minute. Please, we can welcome our very famous Health Minister of India and Kerala, and she was a sensation for India, and she's invited for UN for her speech and other things. Actually, I think there was no health ministers whenever in the entire after independence. Such a great pleasure, and she was invited for series of lectures and series of program, including in UN and different parts of the world also. I think I requested our great health minister to join with us, and I'm very thankful to her. Let us welcome our health minister. Teacher, please.
Welcome, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry that Dr. Ashil and Devak is giving a surprise actually. And I'm very happy to see that you are discussing about a very important step in the treatment of COVID-19 virus. And I think you are discussing about the plasma therapy. And in Kerala also we are implementing plasma therapy here. And that the first step, people are not willing to give plasma in the first step, that they have so many suspicious stage. But now the patients who are recovering and going back to home, they are willing to give blood and to give separate plasma. And we are also arranging the things to separate plasma in so many hospitals. They started, 2 of the medical colleges started plasma bank also. And according to as your discussion, I am also in opinion that it is better. Plasma therapy is a very positive result we are getting out of plasma therapy. Ashil said that more than 60% result is getting from plasma utilization. And here in Kerala also we can say that so many patients who are in a sinking stage, they came back to life through plasma treatment, and that is a very good step. Now so many cured people, cured COVID-19 patients are ready to give plasma. We are implementing that in Kerala also. But in Kerala, as you know, the first and second stage, we are in a high position that we contain the virus. We flatten the graph and the case fatality rate and everything was in a positive stage in Kerala. But at that time itself, we anticipated that when once the lockdown lifted and the ease came, we anticipated that the positive cases, number of positive cases may increase and the graph will shoot up. Same thing happened here when the lockdown lifted after May 3rd. May 4th onwards, the number of positive cases are increasing here. Lakhs of people returned to Kerala, not thousands, it is lakhs of people that returned to Kerala from abroad and from the other states, neighbor states, from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, etc. They are coming back. That places become epicenter of the virus, and people who are coming back from there, most of them were virus carriers, and the local transmission also occurred here. Some trucks came here with the food items and also fish and vegetables. From the truck drivers also, that virus got here. And some clusters formed, some large clusters, and some super spread occurred. And we are now fighting to maintain the thing inside the cluster, or to cluster management strategy. We prepared a very good cluster management strategy, and we are closing all the clusters and working inside that to stop the spread out of the cluster. And I think we are able to maintain that thing. Some clusters are now released and it is over, and the cases are over there. But in some clusters, it is increasing here. But now also our case fatality rate is 0.3. That is a good point. But some death occurred, some more death occurred after this lockdown lifting. But anyway, we are fighting hard to maintain the case fatality rate below 1. Maybe I cannot predict if it is happening future. We are expecting a hike in September also, and we are working for that. We have a very good cluster containment strategy for the sea area, that and also for the hilly area. For tribal management, we have a very good tribal management strategy also, and also this the seaside also. We are among the fishermen. We are doing a separate strategy to contain this thing. Anyway, I am very happy to see your discussion, and I don't know who and who are participating in it. It was a surprise because I am discussing another important thing with my young doctors, Dr. Bijoy, Dr. Ashil, and also Dr. Latish. Some youngsters are here with me today. Sunday, we are discussing about a COVID brigade. We are appointing youths to the first line treatment centers in Kerala and to give some training to the COVID brigade. If you are interested, you can come to Kerala and participate in COVID brigade. Okay, I am really, I cannot so.
ഒരു മിനിറ്റ്
Sujin sir.
Okay, Dr. Sujin Bajaj. Okay, I heard you about you.
Dr.
Okay.
Just a point about the you said the deferment that people don't want to donate plasma. So when we started out in Delhi, before that, the Delhi government was contacting people through the simple factor that, just pick up the call and tell them, can you come please help? So the failure rate in that time was 99.64%. They could only convince 0.36% of the calls they made to come and donate plasma. And we have raised that success rate from 0.36% to 22%. Now, out of every 5 calls we make, we are able to convince one person to come and donate plasma. We used a lot of technology for that in the back end to make sure that our calls are not wasted.
Yes, very good. Now the people who are discharging from the hospital, they are filling up a forum to give their consent for plasma donation. Every medical colleges are collecting that their forum consent to donate plasma.
That's very good.
Teacher, very thankful. Thank you very much, teacher. We have Professor Vinod Chandra Menon, the founder of Disaster Management Authorities here.
Okay.
ശരി.
Okay.
ശൈലജ ടീച്ചർ, നമുക്ക് വളരെ വളരെ സന്തോഷം. നിപ്പ വൈറസിന്റെ സമയത്ത് ആക്ച്വലി വളരെയധികം ഫോൺ കോൾസ്, രാവിലെ 3 മണിക്ക് ഫോൺ കോൾ ഫസ്റ്റ് റിംഗിൽ എടുക്കുന്ന ഒരേ ഒരു ഹെൽത്ത് മിനിസ്റ്റർ ഉള്ളൂ നമ്മുടെ കേരളത്തിലെ ഉള്ള ഹെൽത്ത് മിനിസ്റ്റർ ആണ്. ശൈലജ ടീച്ചറിന്റെ No, actually, Dr. Shujin Bajaj, our health minister of Kerala, Shailaja teacher, is one person who used to pick up the call at the first ring, even at 3 o'clock in the morning when the Nipah virus was at its crisis, at the peak. And we were able to contain that because of the leadership, which we had from the Honorable Health Minister, Shailaja teacher. And we also are, requesting her to inaugurate, one first level treatment center in Malappuram district. The request has gone to you, ma'am. We would like you to inaugurate that, a 150 bed first level treatment center in Manipuli, in the girls, college, in the building which has been made available for a
tribal hostel.
So in the Gram Panchayat, Varikadav Gram Panchayat in Malappuram district. So
very good.
We are very happy to collaborate with you with in all the 14 districts. The Distress Management Collective of India, led by Justice Kurian Joseph, who was in the Supreme Court, along with Mr. Alphonse Kannanthanam, the Rajya Sabha MP, and Mr. Vijayan, former Chief Secretary Kerala, and a lot of people in all the 14 districts. We have district coordinators supporting setting up the first level treatment centers in all the districts. So we would like to offer all our support in all the districts of Kerala in anything which you think we will be able to provide support, both legal support from Advocate Deepak Prakash and his team from SAT. We have legal interns and also, young lawyers who will be able to provide support in any district in Kerala for supporting the efforts of the government and also for the disaster affected people. We are very, very thankful to you for coming and joining us. And Dr. Shujin Bajaj, actually, I'm sure Kerala will be one of the first states to accept any innovation, because I think Kerala started the first plasma therapy, and it was approved by the government of India as a protocol, and that is how it finally went to other states. So I think you have helped in more than 4,600 recoveries using plasma therapy in the country, and by taking the leadership. So I'm very grateful to you and look forward to continued collaboration and support with the health department and also Director of Health Services, yourself, under your guidance, if Kerala needs to have a plasma bank, I'm sure Dr. Shujin Bajaj and his team will be very happy to provide all technical support if needed.
Okay. Thank you, Vinodji. Thank you, Bajajji and
Extreme surprise.
Deepak Prakash.
Yeah, extreme surprise, teacher, extreme surprise. And teacher is speaking very spontaneously. Generally, we are thinking ministers are making a note, PA will come. You see a Sunday, teacher, we are first time seeing teacher in this dress also. Kind of spontaneously. Thank you for that.
No, we are also
Thank
having
you,
this,
thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Challenge teacher, madam, either Facebook, it's coming live on Facebook and also on YouTube.
No, my dress is not like that.
Thank you very much. No, so
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Shiv, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's really pleasant.
So I think we can move towards a concluding remark of the session. So, a very big thank you to Dr. Shujin Bajaj, sir.
അല്ല മാഡം ഇപ്പൊ നന്ന സൂപ്പർ ആയിട്ടാ
Sir, for making us actually aware about
ചാറ്റിൽ കുറെ ആൾക്കാർ സർപ്രൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടല്ലേ അല്ല ചാറ്റിൽ കുറെ ആൾക്കാർ ഇങ്ങനെ മിനിസ്റ്റർ സംസാരിച്ചവർക്ക് ഭയങ്കര അത്ഭുതം അവര്
He's explaining, teacher, generally the ministers and all, what is the procedure and all. So it's an extreme surprise, and teacher is very spontaneously because of, a Sunday, teacher is coming and sitting with people and discussing the further things. So generally such ministers, it's a blessing of Kerala only. Almost all the ministers are like that they're that much involved for this aspect. That's why the pleasant thing of Kerala right now, 2-3 tweets we got and message we got. These people want to have treatment from Kerala itself because they are saying that we don't want to go back. Please, even after finishing their visa also, they want to treat here. They are saying that please permit us to. I think some 3-4 foreigners from when their visiting time tour, they came for tourism purpose, and thereafter they don't want to go back because of the best treatment we are getting in Kerala. It's extremely surprise in Kerala, and they're doing in a very better way in this treatment. Thank you. It's a extremely surprise, and we even though we did it extremely well.
Dr. Shujin Bajaj, would you like to add on anything to the the comments made by the Kerala Health Minister?
I think they were very comprehensive comments, and I would just like to compliment her and all of you that for the fantastic and brilliant work that has been done in Kerala. It is beyond any, it is par excellence, and we are really proud of the fact that Kerala has led from the front. We would like to offer our services anytime at all, whenever you need them, and it is absolutely free of cost. We do not raise any invoice. There is not even a 1 rupee cost either to the government or to the patients. We all work as a voluntary force. We are more than 7,000 of us working on the phone. So we can provide all the technology, all the doctors you need for managing helplines or for managing any processes, talking to COVID patients, giving them teleconsultations. We have more than 700 mental health counselors on our platform providing mental health counseling completely free of cost to all patients who need it, and all patients who are referred by our doctors or patients can voluntarily ask for it as well. Any patient that our doctors talk to and feel that this patient needs mental health counseling is referred to the MHC, and they do a lot of good work which has been appreciated all over. So I would just request you to spread the word to other state governments that you are in touch with. This is completely free of cost process. There is nothing in it for any of us, and sometimes this is the only reason why state governments are slightly wary to interact with us in the beginning, because they're always like asking this question, why do you want to do it free of cost? What is in it for you? There must be something in it for you. And it is difficult for us to explain that no, this is like a completely voluntary effort. So the governments that have been doing it, I think I've sent you some feedback from the government functionaries of Delhi government, Karnataka government, and Bihar government.
Yes.
They've made actually the CM and the deputy CM and the health ministers have made videos endorsing our work. They gave this idea to us that people will be scared of engaging with you because they will ask you what is it the reason that you want to work. You don't want any money, you don't want any fame, your name is nowhere. So our name is nowhere there. We always work on the behalf of the state government. So If we call anybody, we'll say we are calling from Delhi government or calling from Bihar government. Any forms that we give out will be there. Any PR activity going on in the newspapers will have only the health minister and CM's name. So we are nowhere there. So sometimes the governments ask us, what is in it for you? So then the Delhi government only came up with this idea that, okay, we'll make some videos for you so you can share it with other people that you're actually, this is for real and this is not something of a scam going on. So now this has helped us. So we are working in a lot of states. So any state that wants any sort of help to supplement their efforts in COVID or any other program, we are very happy to come and help anytime at all.
I think Dr. Mohammed Ashil, actually, he's also the head of the Social Security Mission in the government of Kerala, and so there are many activities to support the vulnerable sections, the weaker sections in the state. So Kerala, I think, has been extremely progressive, a state which really supported a lot of interstate migrant workers. We call them guest workers in Kerala, and the relief camps which were actually set up, the food which was provided to those people when the lockdown started. In the Supreme Court, the affidavit mentioned, a large number of, relief camps for the interstate migrant workers. More than 60% of them were in Kerala only. And I think Kerala has been really doing outstanding work in many areas. And even right now, we're going through the COVID response, and I'm sure Dr. Mohammed Ashil, if you could also, respond to this offer from Dr. Shujin Bajaj, we will all be very happy, even with SAATH, the network which we have, the coordinators and the young paralegal volunteers, we will be very happy to support the government of Kerala's initiatives in ensuring that the weaker sections, their issues, their concerns are actually responded at the level of the local self-government institutions and also by the district administration officials. So we look forward to your, support in these efforts, by all of us working together in Kerala.
Dr. Ashil, can you just conclude, please?
I think he's going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Shujin Bajaj sir and Vinod Menon sir. We will definitely coordinate with Divek Prakash sir in this, and the minister is not really happy on the offer of that CFLTCs. And anyway, we will actually carry out the association. We will be in positive towards the association because we really look up for that. So details we will have I will coordinate with Divek Prakash sir on that.
Thank you very much.
Please, I send you the WhatsApp message. Is it with you? The invitation is there in your WhatsApp.
Yeah. We actually, as Madam was saying, we are actually thinking of having a what is called as COVID brigade. So we were in the discussion on that. So I just walked out of that room now. So I'll have to be back to that discussion.
Okay.
So
Thank you
please
very
let
much.
me.
Thank you very much.
You will have a lot of us coming forward as the COVID brigade volunteers.
Yeah. It's like a team of that's a paid volunteers where actually all the medical professionals all will be enrolled, and we have an army of people on the front line. So to deal with this issue, as we have a paramilitary force, we'll be having a kind of a brigade for COVID.
You have the Sanatha Sena also, 3.5 lakh people.
Sanatha Sena. Now this is more of a technical team. So this technical team, we will be motivating them. We will be giving badges, a certificate from the Honorable Chief Minister of Kerala. A jacket on that, and will be paid handsome money also.
Yes.
So that's a kind of.
Dr. Rajesh, our district coordinator, is there. He's an IMS state committee member. Dr. Rajesh, can you please?
Sir, can I? We will have actually take it up later. So can I leave?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks.
Dr. Rajesh, can you unmute and come?
Yeah, I think Dr. Shujin Bajaj will also have to leave soon because he's also in the hospital.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. Then
thank you so much once again. It was a wonderful interaction, and really loved seeing your energy and enthusiasm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In fact, we have requests from Bihar, from Nagaland, from Chhattisgarh, from Jharkhand. We are looking at various ways of collaborating with many state governments. And we will look forward, we'll get in touch with you to see how best we can all work together. Exactly. The SAATH initiative, along with our partners, Coast India, the Standard Workers Action Network, many other partners who are also with us, and we will all work together to make sure that, we are able to contain the spread of the COVID outbreak. Thank you very much, Dr. Bajaj.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Doctor.
so much.
We'll contact you soon. Soon we'll contact you. We'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you. Thank you.
And Prerna, if you could actually also save all the questions, in the chat box. So, and if you have the email addresses, we can also respond to any questions in case there are any important questions which need to be answered. We can also respond to them, because there are many people still on the session. So back to you.
So we were just having Dr. Rajesh.
Dr. Rajesh, are you hearing me? Hello? Dr. Rajesh, he was just here.
I think he's out.
Yeah.
I think he's driving and.
That may be the reason. And anyway, it became a surprise session. So only.
I think it's getting recorded live on Facebook. So,
yes,
we will also now conclude the session. Back to you, the organizers.
So, I'll just have this concluding remark, then we can just end it here.
Yes.
So I really want to express my deep sense of appreciation to every person on the board, every dignitary who spared the time for us, who attended the session, who have enriched their session with their presence. And I really thank you, Dr. Rajni ma'am, who was there from starting to end, and she's there with us even after so many issues with her. So thank you so much, ma'am, for being here. And I really thank Dr. Reshmi ma'am, who is always a mentor for us. And a big and warm thank you to Vinod Menon sir, who always a guiding authority, guiding person, mentor, who always stand by us in every session and every decision with us. Thank you so much, sir. And I express my thanks to Yadu sir and whole of his team of Helping Brains, who is there and grace this session, and also all the volunteers and all the participants who were there and attended the sessions. I hope everybody is much clear about this process of plasma therapy, and we would just share this Google Forms from our social media, so that anybody who wants to donate or who are in search of the donor can easily approach our social media or the sites, and they can just fill up the Google form, and a team of Sir Suchin Bajaj sir can reach to you all. So once again, a very big and warm thank you to everybody who spare some time and enhance this session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Anika, you left the health minister.
No, sir, I think she left. That's why I just left because we already had.
It is recording and it's going to this YouTube now.
So, of course, sir, a very, very, very big thank you to her, because even at a very short time period, and she just addressed us, and she just came and acknowledged us. Very big thank you to her, and also to Mohammed Ashil sir, who were there, and even for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, he have some information for us. And I think we can coordinate further as a SART team and help him out with the Kerala initiative. And thank you, everybody, for coming here and joining us.
Thanks a lot.
You, bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Very much. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.